Good evening. It is 7:30 on March 22nd, 2021, and I would like to convene the regular Board of Education meeting. Please rise while Mr. Mikowski leads us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mindy, may I have roll call, please?
Ms. Husking?
Here.
Mr. Mikowski?
Here.
Mr. Flaherty?
Here.
Ms. Rinaldi? Ms. Wilk?
Here.
Ms. Crotty? Ms. Rosa?
Here.
Ms. Eastman? Mr. Malaguti?
Here.
Ms. Lindstrom?
Here.
Thank you.
Before I continue with our meeting, I would like to say that I'll be running the meeting tonight. Board Chairwoman Lee Crotty is under the weather. I'd also like to say that Mrs. Rinaldi will not be here as well. She is caring for her dad, who is recovering from surgery. I wish the recoveries for all. Moving on to ID, regular board members received minutes from the March 8, 2021 Board of Education meeting in their packets on Friday. Did everyone receive them and have enough time to read them?
Yes.
Seeing there are no questions, I ask for a motion on the minutes.
Yes, Madam Chair, I move that the board approve of the minutes from the March 8, 2021 Board of Education meeting as presented by Ms. Davidson.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Water? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Mindy, I'm going to abstain, please. Motion carries.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
if I may, just a point of recognition, your connection might be a little off this evening, so you've been going in and out.
Sorry, guys. Let me know is it really that bad? Yes. Okay. I'm sorry. This is not good. All right, hold on. Hope everybody can hear me. I'm gonna move on to item E. Can you guys hear me all, or? No. Shoot, hold on.
The Watertown Board of Education is pleased to announce the names of the following top 10 students from this year's graduating class. The Board of Education recognizes the excellent academic achievements of these dedicated students from the class of 2021. These students truly exemplify the district's vision of a Watertown Public School graduate. Alyssa Baldwin. Morgan Bennett. The class of 2021 valedictorian, Chelsea Betts. James Fitzpatrick. It's not the same virtually, but appreciate the effort. Emma Gallagher. Samuel Kijak. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Fiora Lena. Ariana Paletta. Noah Ryan. And the 2021 class of 20, I'm sorry, and the class of 2021 salutatorian, Kai Zaganini.
Thank you, Mr. Makowski. And just a few words from myself and then from Dr. Parlato. And we'll probably one more round of applause here for our top 10 students. Earning a place as one of the top 10 students for academic achievement is an absolute accomplishment that takes dedication, commitment, and perseverance. Over the years, I'm sure, I know it, that some of you, if not all of you, have probably undoubtedly faced varying types of challenges throughout your academic journeys. Whether it was a concept that was difficult to master, or maybe you were deciding whether you should, skip that outing with your friends so that you could study just a little bit longer. I have a pretty strong feeling that this group of 10 here, you probably looked those challenges right in the eye and figured out ways around them or right through them. So as your superintendent of schools and on behalf of all of the Watertown Public Schools here, we recognize your hard work and your focus and your determination, and we honor your special accomplishment today as the top 10 students of this year's graduating class. So one more round of applause, and then Dr. Parlato definitely has something to say. Dr. Parlato.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We are so proud to introduce Watertown High School's top 10 scholars this evening. These students have performed and achieved at the very highest levels throughout their WHS careers, two of which have been disrupted because of the pandemic. Their flexibility and perseverance have been remarkable. Their insights and intelligence have been sparkling in each course, and their ability to care for others and care for the whole community noteworthy and serve as models for all to see. These students represent the very best of Watertown High School, and they exemplify the Watertown Public Schools vision of a graduate through their curiosity, leadership, collaboration, and creativity. They will contribute wonderfully to our society and the world around them by sharing their very, very many gifts. Congratulations to these students for their great accomplishment, and congratulations as well to their families who have supported them throughout their many years of schooling and who've worried along with them and cheered along with them. Congratulations to students and families. Thank you.
Yay.
I'm so sorry, guys, that my connection is so. We're gonna move on. I hope you guys can hear me. On to F, recognition of board members. I turn this over to you, Dr. Villanueva.
Thank you, Vice Chair Wilk. So, when it comes to this special month, how is it that I'm not surprised when not a single board member reminds me that it is Board Recognition Month? When the role of a board member is filled admirably by leaders in the community like you, who are here for our schools, it's a true representation of your dedication.
I think we're done with the student stuff.
Oh, really?
This is all.
That was it?
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
Good. Mr. Turner, if we could mute our microphones. Thank you. Thank you. So again, for our board members who fill these roles admirably as leaders in the community, who we know you are here for our schools, it is a true representation of your dedication to the families and children who attend Watertown Public Schools. No matter how many late meetings you have in a week or how many emails you must receive on a daily basis or the phone calls you answer, I'm sure all times of the day, and all voluntary for that matter, it is clear that you all go an extra step and an extra mile because you want to see the Watertown Public Schools be the best that they can be. Slowly but surely, and year after year, the Watertown Public Schools will continue to shift and to grow because of the work governed by the Board of Education. And so this year, you each received a very small token of thanks in the shape of a children's picture book. And each book shared the story of a child. In 1,000 no's, the little girl never gave up, no matter how many people told her she couldn't do it. In The Dot, the character had a teacher that believed in her when she didn't even believe in herself. In Fry Bread, the family showed us the importance of acceptance and encouragement. And in all of these books, the children were learning, growing, and building the characteristics we hold true here in the Watertown Public Schools. So each of those characters are like the children of our schools, in which the Board of Education is wholly committed to. I know this. And so we recognize you this month for all that you do. And I'd also like to recognize Chairwoman Crotty, Vice Chairwoman Wilk, and Board Secretary Rinaldi, our board leadership team. It's evident that you are a leadership team that is knowledgeable and leads by example. And so something that is always easier to say than to do. So we thank you from all of us. And happy Board of Education Recognition Month.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was such an amazing, I loved it. It was so awesome. So thank you very much. I appreciate your kind words and everything.
Thank you.
Moving on,
Amen. Thank you.
Thank you.
moving on, item G, report for Student Council Representative Natalie.
Good evening, everyone. John Trumbull, JTPS kindergarten students are working on vowel power in phonics by recognizing where and how many vowels are in every word. They're continuing to learn SNAP words. In reading workshops, they're growing their expertise in nonfiction reading by asking questions such as who, what, when, where, how, and why, and reporting this learning to classmates by teaching them the facts they learned from their books. In writing workshops, students are writing how-to books. They're using resources such as charts and other books for ideas. They're working on adding detailed pictures with labels as well as detailed words to explain the steps. In math workshop, kindergartners are working to solve addition and subtraction story problems by listening to the problem a few times before drawing what they know and writing a number sentence that corresponds with the problem. They understand that using math manipulatives helps to solve story problems. JTPS first graders are working on getting to know characters in their books by paying close attention to the words and pictures. In math, students are building their knowledge of place value in the base 10 number system. Students are counting, adding, and subtracting by 10. In writing, they are studying different types of poetry and writing their own poems. In phonics, students are strengthening their knowledge of long vowels and vowel teams to help them read and write. Polk. Polk is blown away by the hard work of their students and the generosity of Polk families. In less than 2 weeks, Polk students raised over $2,400 for the St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital. Polk is so proud of their students and the huge impact they have made in helping others. Polk wants to thank the friends at Watertown Staples. Last week, Polk was selected as the recipient of their school supply drive, which provided many materials to support student learning. The crucial supplies are very much appreciated by Polk's teachers and students. Polk Student Council is sponsoring a Penny War fundraiser that began today to support the March of Dimes. Students are invited to compete to see which grade level can fill their bucket with the most pennies. To make it even more competitive, other grade levels can cancel pennies out by placing other coins or even dollar bills in a grade's bucket. The winner of the fundraiser will be the grade level with the most pennies on April 1st. Over the past 2 weeks, Mrs. Sulu, Polk and Judson's library media specialist engaged the entire school community in learning about the 49th Iditarod. Each day, students tracked mushers as they trekked across Alaska while learning about the racers, dogs, and history of this dog sled race. Fifth graders in their library rotation engaged in research projects about it and combined their reading, writing, technology, and public speaking skills to share their work with peers. Judson's mathathon concluded on March 17th, and it was a major success. Mrs. Washburn is busy counting up all the money, and the grand total, as well as the top earning classes and top participants, will be announced at the March Stars Assembly on Friday, March 26th. Judson student Tyler Gear has been named as ASAP's 2021 Top Selected Game Designer. He created a game called Dreams in Cubes. There was a celebration of young game designers on a live YouTube event yesterday, March 21st. Tyler's work was featured. Judson is very proud and congratulates him for his work. In math, third grade students are working on measuring items to the nearest 1/4 inch and creating line plots to display and analyze the data. All third grade students created leprechaun traps but were unable to catch the elusive creature. The leprechaun rewarded students with $1 to buy a treat in the caf for their efforts. Fourth graders have jumped into learning about fractions. They are busy adding, subtracting, and decomposing fractions. Fourth graders worked on an exciting math leprechaun escape room challenge last week, where students had to solve problems to escape the digital dungeon. In ELA, students are exploring the world by reading engaging nonfiction articles and focusing on text structure. They're composing their own informational essays based on the expert topic they have chosen. Fifth graders have been hard at work and also created traps to try to catch the leprechaun. They had to explain their thinking and the inner workings of their traps to their peers as a STEM project. They are also busy learning long division and algorithm multiplication. Swift created a group of enrichment activities that students can engage in during Eagle Block when they have free time. The activities include the opportunity to explore topics of individual interests, book clubs, journaling, debates, etc. Students might choose to apply math skills to real life, such as analyzing Major League Baseball statistics, or apply math, interior design, and architecture designing, and by designing their own ideal bedrooms. There are opportunities for community service acts, interpersonal connections to brain games, and even a chance to virtually visit a museum of their choice and then design their own museum exhibits. The activities are student-directed and students track and reflect on their experience. When completed, students' products will be displayed online through Swift's website. These ideas are currently being rolled out to the teachers and students and will begin to be implemented in classrooms soon. Swift is very grateful for the parents and families continuing to support through the Swift PTSO. Recently, the PTSO agreed to fund 2 projects that are currently in the works. The family and consumer science teacher has designed 3 raised garden beds in the central courtyard to be used to grow vegetables and herbs that students can use when cooking in the FCS lab. The woods teacher will build the beds and students will plant and tend to these gardens. In addition, the art teacher is starting a knitting/craft club for those interested. The PTSO is funding the materials for this project, which is open to all interested students. Crafting has become hugely popular this last year, and Swift expects quite an interest in both of these activities. Watertown High School. Spring sports registration is underway, and the spring athletic season will begin on Saturday, March 27th. WHS offers tennis, lacrosse, outdoor track and field, baseball, and softball in the spring. WHS is glad that students have the opportunities to participate in the upcoming weeks. Also, winter athletes are wrapping up their seasons, which are characterized by hard work and great efforts on the court, ice, pool, and track. Even with in-person, hybrid, and remote learning models going on at the same time, WHS is still honoring students with their good news calls. Staff members nominate students for their efforts and excellence in the classroom. Students' families are contacted to let them know of the student's success. In the second year of this program, WHS has honored over 125 students with good news calls. WHS was happy to welcome the freshmen and juniors back today for 4-day learning. These students will be in school for 4 days per week for the next 3 weeks. Sophomores and seniors return to hybrid learning for the next 3 weeks until it's their turn again to come back for 4 days. The process of selecting a new mascot for the high school has begun, starting with students in grades 6 through 12, sending in suggestions for the new mascot. Next, suggestions will be asked from families, staff members, and community members. After all suggestions are gathered, voting will begin with students to narrow down the list, and then rounds of voting will continue until the new mascot is selected. The following criteria will be used for mascot suggestions. Be unifying and timeless for Watertown High School and the larger community. Represent positive qualities, ideals, or associations around which people can rally. Be representative of Watertown's geography, history, and/or vision of a graduate, either generally or specifically. Work equally well with all athletic programs and school activities. Be appropriate for sporting and non-sporting events. have the potential to translate in a visually pleasing manner, be appealing and marketable to the community. And lastly, adhere to all Watertown Board of Education policies and regulations. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Natalie. Moving on to our first round of public participation. Are there any members of the public who wish to address the board this evening? Are there any members of the public that wish to address the board this evening? Once, twice. Okay, there are no members. Moving on to item I, Superintendent's Recommendations Report. Dr. Villanueva.
Thank you very much, Ms. Wilk. Okay, so you can see from the long list there that spring season has kicked in, and so our coach list of recommendations is a long one, and we look forward to all of our teams getting right back into it. Enrollment, just an update there. At this time, we are looking closely at all of our enrollment, but particularly at our kindergarten registration numbers as we get ready for next year's cohort of students. We already have a pretty good response and continue to remind all of our families that if you have a student who will be 5 years of age by January 1st, 2022, or maybe you know of a neighbor or somebody in the area who may have a student eligible for kindergarten in the fall, to please register as soon as possible. This helps us balance our numbers prior to August coming around. On Saturday, we had our third and very successful closed vaccine clinic. It was a busy weekend in the district with COVID testing happening over at the high school, the clinic running here at Town Hall, and lots of other events in and around town. I must give a huge shout out to our volunteer community, to Chief Bromley and the fire department, the nurses from Waterbury Hospital, our Watertown Public Schools nurses who were also volunteering, our town manager Ramo and town council chairwoman Rosa, who've been there really every week, and town members who have also really partnered with WPS through this whole vaccine. And also a huge thank you to Police Chief Berniger and the Watertown Police Department and Corporal Jeff DeCina again for their continued partnership with our schools. Also, you may also be noticing that there is additional guidance being shared by the CDC, sometimes also the DPH, State of Connecticut, and the Governor's Office. So I just want to assure our Board of Education as well as our families that we continue to meet as a school district team to review our COVID protocols. And so sometimes guidance prompts us to make adjustments. And when that happens, we will be sure to clearly communicate those changes to the community. Lastly, today will actually be the last BOE meeting where we will be using the YouTube link in addition to the Google Meet link. All of our meetings are still going to be live streamed, but we are going to primarily use the Google link solely. And anyone who would like to view the meeting can use a Google link to join in, just like you did today. And this adjustment will just help us streamline our live video feed options a little more moving forward. And that's it for my update today. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to item J, items of discussion. The 2021-2022 non-resident tuition rates. Do any board members have any questions for Dr. Villanueva? None. I'm hoping you guys can hear me. Hearing none, I will move on to item JB, the 2020-2021 school year calendar revision, and I will turn that back over to you, Dr. Villanueva.
Thank you. And this one is just, there was a little typo in the last calendar. And so the actual last day for this calendar year, 2020-2021 is June 17th. So the updated calendar that you have in your packet now states that June 17th is the official last day of school this year.
Okay. I was just going to say, and I'll do graduation dates for high school and middle school, but you just said that. Okay, I will move on to item K, board policies. Policy and Labor met to review the policies on March 15th, and we have our first reading of them tonight. Dr. Villanueva, I will turn that back over to you again.
All right, wonderful. Thank you. So Shipman and Goodwin update their model policies by making revisions to individual policies based on statutory or regulatory changes, citation updates, corrections, best practices pretty regularly. So sometimes these changes are simple technical adjustments and other times they're more substantive policy changes. But tonight we do have a number of policies that we will move through a first read on. So you should have these all in your packet. So we will begin with Series 1000 for Community Board Operation, and starting with the non-discrimination, version 6 versus version 7. So this policy was revised to include recent changes to Title IX of the Education Amendments of 1972. Basically, to ensure internal consistency in the policy and administrative regulations. You can see that anything in blue is an insertion and anything in red is a deletion. And if there are any green items, those are items that were moved. Really, for this one, the policy is inserting ancestry to the list there, as well as pregnancy, and there are a series of technical and grammar updates. Any questions for the non-discrimination policy update? Okay. So the next one we have here is for deadly weapons or firearms. And this policy has been amended with a simple expansion of the definition of peace officer, which ultimately was revised by the state statute in October of 2019. And so they inserted the Inspector of Motor Vehicles in the Department of Motor Vehicles. All right, so that's a quick and easy one. All right, the next one is the use of school facilities. And as times are changing, this policy was revised to include the use of vapor products to the list of prohibitive activities for groups when they're using our school facilities. In addition, you'll see some more technical and grammatical type of adjustments just around the application procedures. Okay. And I'll just keep going, and if you have anything that you want to stop on, just let me know. Okay, the next policy we have here is about volunteers. And this policy clarifies the difference between student interns and student teachers. Specifically, that student interns do not include student teachers. Student teachers are individuals enrolled in a teacher prep program in accordance with Connecticut statute. So they're not actually considered volunteers under this policy because they're actually subject to specific background check requirements under Connecticut law. So background checks for student teachers are addressed in the policy concerning employment and student teacher checks ultimately here. And this is actually helpful because we have both student teachers and student interns in our buildings. Okay, the last one for Series 1000 is a new policy called School Mascots and Other School Identifiers. This is a new policy for Watertown and falls under the 1000 series Community Board Operation. Although you can see that there are several cross-references on this policy, also to the 4000 and 5000 series around non-discrimination. State statute provides that boards of education have the obligation to reduce racial, ethnic, and economic isolation of students. And so this policy provides some clear guidelines on the alignment of a mascot with the district's vision, mission, and obligations under state law. For Series 2000 under administration, we actually don't have any policy updates at this time. So then we move on to Series 3000 business. So the first one we have there is under Code of Conduct for procurement. So this policy was revised to apply the procurements of property and services under all federal grants. So typically we would have our food services really right in that title, but now they're making it more broad just to say anything that falls under federal grants, as opposed to just school nutrition programs. And so this revision ultimately is consistent with federal law. Okay, the next one is on purchasing. And this is very similar to the revisions that we just saw here on Code of Conduct. But basically the revisions here in this section for purchasing concerns the procurement of property and services under a federal award. So this was also revised to track the statutory language concerning consultation with the municipality's legislative body. So this revolves around goods and services ultimately, and general services for a district and the bid process. So anything like phones or copiers, things that we go through bid processes, the bid process for. And also just in terms of daily operations on this policy, our school website, we will be making it a little more prominent on the site as we go through bids, and so that people can see from the public when we are out to bid. All right. Series 4000, we are into personnel. And the first one we have here is an update to athletic coaches around evaluation and termination. So if you look through the policy here, ultimately the blue portion is the new piece, and it was revised to include the statutory definition of what an athletic director is, and to provide that the athletic director may certainly evaluate coaches consistent with Connecticut law. Here in Watertown, our athletic director already engages in that practice. So this is a update that doesn't impact us too much. All right. So here they've made technical revisions to the policy, and they've ultimately revised just the administrative regulations to identify that the new retention period for records under Title IX of the Education Amendments of 1972. Okay. The next one is field trips. And so they've included, it's a nice short one. They've ultimately included the provision providing authority to the superintendent of schools to develop regulations to implement the policy. And hopefully very soon we will be back to actually going on field trips. So something to look forward to. Okay, the next one is around health assessments and screenings and oral health assessments. So I believe it's really the oral health assessments that have been brought back in here. Not a whole lot of changes in here other than some very simple technical grammatical adjustments. Okay, we have one more non-discrimination here. And in this revised policy, again, recent changes to the Title IX and Education Amendments of 1972, basically just making it consistent with the other adjustments in the other non-discrimination. Again, just including that veteran status, ancestry, national origin, all of that. Okay. And then for student discipline. So this here is revised to incorporate certain changes initially introduced as part of the COVID-19 temporary policies during the summer, and ultimately also now during remote learning and possibly for future virtual hearings. But basically saying that what was temporary can now be part of the regular policy here. And this is a long one, but you can see that the adjustments are minimal. Okay. Next one here is the students' use of district's computer systems. And again, this was based on a temporary COVID-19 policy because we were looking at the remote use of our computers. But once again, this is a reminder and an update to basically say that if you're on a school device, it belongs to the school board. And so any activity on that really does need to be in line with school work, and anything that's not is not really acceptable. This is also something that would come up in, let's say, a student handbook around our acceptable use policy that parents and students would sign off on at the beginning of the year to adhere to those practices. Okay. The next one is for the Title IX sex discrimination and sexual harassment. And so this has been updated basically in administrative regulations also to implement the new Title IX federal regulations. And the various changes include adding the definition and procedures related to sexual harassment under state law, and clarifying just practical issues of implementation, and typically around witness notification. And that's was consistent with the other non-discrimination and sexual harassment Title IX adjustments earlier on. Next one is the use of private technological devices by students. And so this is like the BYOD, bring your own computer to the school. This policy was revised and updated basically to include various definitions and incorporate certain changes. Initially, again, once again, introduced as a temporary policy during COVID, but now again, because we probably will continue to have students who bring their own devices, that it will be part of our regular policy piece. And again, if you're on school campus, devices really should be doing schoolwork and not other things. Okay, Series 6000, we go into instruction. And so the last one is around IDEA and alternative assessments. And this really just has been revised to update the links to the various manuals cited at the end of the document. So there isn't much adjustment here other than when you go towards the charts towards the end, you'll see blue insertions for an update to those links. Okay, so that was a number of policies all in one shot, but I will just pause here one more time if there are any particular policies you'd like to go back to and take a look at some of the insertions and deletions. All right, well then there's our first read. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Now on to our second round of public participation. Are there any members of the public who wish to address the board? Are there any members of the public who wish to address the board? Hearing none or seeing no hands raised, we will move on to.
No, that's us. Yes,
wait.
we do. We do.
Okay.
One moment.
Okay.
Hi. Let's see.
Are you on?
Yeah.
I guess state your name.
Please state your name, address, and topic of discussion.
So Chris and Bernadette Bennett, 225 Town Line Highway South, and topic of discussion is policy procedure for reporting student grades.
Go ahead.
Okay. So as many of you are probably aware, our daughter Morgan Bennett was awarded the salutatorian, and it was announced on social media. An error was found by school officials, and that award was retracted, and it was given to the correct student, which we have no problem with. What we request is that the board add to a future agenda item a review of the policy and procedure and a requirement for a third-party review before grades are released to the students. That's our request. Does that make sense? Is everybody aware that that happened?
Yes, I'm just making note right now. So
Okay.
yes, thank you. Thank you. Are there any other members of the board, of the public, that wish to address the board? None?
Madam
Okay.
Chair? Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'm sorry. I'm wondering, could I ask, can I ask just a quick question through you to Mr. and Mrs. Bennett? Just to clarify.
I'll refer to Dr. B for that.
I don't need to be addressed now. I've just indicated an interest in their idea of the third-party review and just express just my personal sorrow that your daughter and your family had to go through that. But thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you.
And speaking out.
I do also have a concern that actually the issue was found by a parent or a student versus the actual counseling department or the board. So to me, I have, had that parent or student not brought it to someone's attention, would we still be having this conversation right now? I think something like this should have been tracked way before it was announced by counselors, and if a red flag should have gone off, if our daughter truly wasn't salutatorian, it shouldn't be something that surprised anyone at the announcement. If they were tracking the kids like they should be, then it shouldn't have happened, is what I'm kind of concerned with.
We just want more care with the handling of the grades and the report. We certainly congratulate the new salutatorian. We congratulate all the students, and we certainly have no issue with that. But we just think that when you're talking about reporting grades, and this has financial implications, as most of you know, that there should be extreme care with reporting the grades and when it's discussed and when it's announced. That's all. And I would assume that everybody agrees with that.
Mm-hmm.
So it probably goes without saying.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Madam Chair.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Okay. All right, moving on to item M, communications. We have no communications from the secretary tonight. We will move on to item N, committee reports, curriculum and instruction. There is no report for that this evening. Policy and labor, I will report that I had reported earlier that we had met Policy and Labor Committee on March 15th, and we did our first reading tonight. Thank you, Dr. V. Moving on to Budget and Finance Committee, Mr. Mikowski.
Yes, Ms. Wolf, thank you. Just a refresher that Dr. Villanueva presented to the Town Council's Finance Subcommittee our approved budget that was unanimously approved by the board that was presented last Tuesday, March 16th. Next step is town council in their April 5th meeting is scheduled to set the budget, which will, upon setting, will be sent to for the public meeting. That public meeting is set for April 21st, which will be the point at which the community can participate and listen to the budgets, as well as voice any thoughts or opinions. Thank you.
Thank you. There is no report for this evening for facilities, PBC, and operations. Mr. Makowski, I will go back to you for governance community engagement.
No report at this time.
Okay. Moving on to item O, report from the board chair. There is no report this evening, so I will move on to item P, action items, adoption of items to be approved by consent. We have consideration of the approval to revise the 2020-2021 school year calendar. There have been 2 traditional snow days during the 2020-2021 school year due to inclement weather. Revised 2020-2021 school year calendar is presented tonight to approve the last day of school for students as Thursday, June 17th. It is recommended that the board approve of the revised 2020-21 school calendar as presented for Watertown Public Schools. Do I have a motion?
Yes, Madam Chair. I move that the board approve of the revised 2020-2021 school year calendar as presented.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Moving on to item P2, consideration of the approval of high school and middle school graduation dates. With the adjustment to the 2020-2021 calendar, the last day of school for Watertown Public Schools is Thursday, June 17th for students and teachers. It is recommended that the board approve Wednesday, June 16th as a date for graduation exercises for Swift Middle School and Thursday, June 17th, 2021 as a date for graduation exercises for Watertown High School class of 2021. Do I have a motion?
Yes, Madam Vice Chair, I move that the board approve Wednesday, June 16th, 2021 as the date for graduation exercises for Swift Middle School and Thursday, June 17th, 2021 as the date for graduation exercises for Watertown High School class of 2021.
Thank you, Ms. Eastman. Do I have a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Moving on to item Q, future agenda items and board member comments. Do any board members have any future agenda items or comments? Hearing none, I will move on to our last and final round of public participation. Do any members of the public wish to address the board? Any members of the public wish to address the board? Hearing none, I will move on. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstentions? Motion carries. We are adjourned and it is 8:18. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you,
Enjoy your
everybody.
night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Enjoy. Thank you.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye.